Hi, everyone, and welcome to Doc's Thoughts. So, I have a very special guest here today. He is my personal chiropractor. And I asked, it's Dr. Thomas Matzke. And I asked him to come on the show because I notice with a lot of my patients that sometimes they'll talk to their primary doctor and say, what do you think about me going to the chiropractor? And they might say, oh, it's not really going to do anything for you. So, I want to get into a little bit of that. But I really just wanted to have a good conversation with a really talented chiropractor who has done a lot of good for me. And I want to educate you on what his type of medicine actually is and what type of people should go see him and just give you a little education on that. So I wanted to start by obviously saying thank you for coming. I know you have a busy life, busy family. It's kind of both our day off, but as we both know, as business owners, days off are usually off in a different kind of way.
I just came from the office too.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for coming. But I want to start by sharing a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, and then how you got into this type of a healing practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
I've been born and raised Green Bay area, East Side Green Bay. When I did my undergrad at UW Milwaukee, and then after that, went to Palmer College of Chiropractic. That's where I went to chiropractic school,
Where's Palmer?
Davenport, Iowa.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
I always forget.
And after school
But
there,
that's one of the biggest ones in the country.
that's where
That's
chiropractic
like
was born.
that's okay.
Yeah. First chiropractic school, 1897 was when it was established.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been there a while.
Yeah.
And then after I graduated, went back to Milwaukee, practiced there for 2.5 years as an independent contractor, like an associate. And then it was time to start my own thing. I wanted to come back home to do it here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you married at that time already?
Not yet.
Okay. So married in Green Bay.
So we married the year before I opened my practice up here.
Okay. Is your wife from Green Bay area?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to high school together, weren't together then, but we knew each other.
Nice. Okay. So you moved to Green Bay, started your practice, and you started right away in De Pere, correct?
Yep, this location.
The same location?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I think that's when I first met you, is you had reached out to me and we had coffee at Alpha Delights.
Yeah.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. That was that was when I was in the little house.
Yeah.
And you were new and fresh. So that's kind of fun. But then so we've had contact over the years back and forth. It's kind of funny because I met him when he initially moved to town. And then I went to him as a patient several years ago, maybe like 3 years ago. And then he was like, you probably should maintain this and keep a maintenance program going. And of course I didn't because life is busy. And then just this past summer, I believe it was, I was in the hurt box. Like I couldn't even make it through a patient day. I mean, I would make it through, but I was popping ibuprofen and I was like having to stand a lot of the day at my desk with the patient in the room, which gets kind of awkward. And literally I go back there and I just figured it'd be a quick little, visit. And they're like, you need x-rays. You haven't been here for 3 years or something like that. Honestly, after the first session, I had, 50% reduction in my pain. And then within 3 sessions, I was feeling back to normal. Like I still had a little bit of a flare, but it was really powerful. And so I guess tell us exactly what a chiropractor does and is. What are you doing?
That's a great question. Very common question because I think there's a lot of misconceptions or just cloudiness of what it is. So 3 words. So chiropractic, adjustment, and subluxation. Those are the 3 that can kind of encapsulate everything of what we do. So chiropractic, the word chiro just is by hand, and practice, the practice of. So practice of healing done by hand.
Right.
Is what it means.
Makes sense. I did not know that.
What we treat is the main thing is a subluxation. So again, I'll just break down the words. Sub, less than, lux is light, and then ation, at ion, so positive, negative. So it really just means less than optimal flow of those ions or energy.
Oh, I did not know that either.
Yeah. So if we just break down the word, that's what it is. And that's what we treat. And then we do that.
I always thought of subluxation as like in medicine, we think of it as bones being off like that.
Yeah.
But if that's a physical structure being off, I didn't realize it was an energetic thing.
Yeah. So that's what we treat with the adjustment. But for the purpose of, so when we make an adjustment, whether it's us gently tapping that bone back where it should be,
right,
firmer adjustment, whatever it might be, the main goal of that does a whole lot of things, but the main goal is nerve flow because those nerves come out of the spine. It's the only system that's completely encapsulated in bone, protected.
Right.
It's pretty important.
Right. Very.
Controls everything else. That those nerves control every cell, tissue, organ in our body. So if we have something going on at that organ level or tissue level, good to look there. Nutrition, all those outside things, but also from the inside, making sure it's getting all the information it can. So with that adjustment, we're just optimizing flow from the brain to the tissue.
Right.
And then that
Whether it's an
communication
organ
back.
or a muscle or
Yeah.
right, or the skin.
And we also get, the side effects of better range of motion, increased circulation, prevention of any previous or future wear and tear, so like arthritis of the spine.
Right.
But the main thing is that nerve flow.
Okay, and then the third word?
Adjustment.
Adjustment.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what we're doing when we make an adjustment.
That actual verb part of everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're making that adjustment on the bone, like you said, out of position, making sure that there's proper nerve flow.
Made you want to do this?
And it's very interesting because I was always a science guy. Always wanted to learn how things worked. I thought I wanted to be an engineer, but then high level math wasn't my thing.
Right.
And biology and how things worked in the human body always was interesting. And so I just went and had conversations with physical therapists, chiropractors, all that. And we had a really good family friend that was a chiropractor, and it just kind of clicked. And I think I'm kind of unique in the sense that before I went to chiropractic school, I was actually never adjusted.
Oh, you weren't?
Like we hear a lot of people like I suffer from migraine headaches for life, and that's why I became a chiropractor.
Right.
That type of stuff.
Right.
My parents did, or my dad did a lot.
Yeah.
Went and got adjusted, so I kind of was familiar with it. But my first adjustment was when I was at chiropractic school.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And you liked it right from the start and you were all in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun.
With the training, so the training is undergrad, chiropractic school is 3-4 years? 2 years?
10 trimesters straight
Okay.
through. So yeah, three and a half, 4 years.
Which when I was in medical school, my 4 years of medical school did involve like a couple, I think, summer breaks and stuff like that. So it's probably pretty similar to medical training.
Yeah.
And then you can do fellowships if you want to.
Yeah, and those are, they call them diplomats with us, but that's more, extensive training in whether it's orthopedics or neurology or things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one of the questions I wanted to ask you is when a patient, so if you have a patient who's listening and they've never been to a chiropractor before, what would you tell them? What would be a reason for them to see a chiropractor?
Simply put, if you have a spine, life happens. Our job is to really optimize, like I said, that nerve flow, make sure everything functions like it should. So the best place to do it start from is making sure the spine is one in the proper position, but the main thing is functioning properly. And once that stops, that's kind of the beginning signs of what may be happening in the future.
And what age would you say people should start?
I adjusted my kids 10 minutes after they were born.
Yeah, that's it. I know that's one thing I didn't realize is how many people actually have their infants and young children adjusted.
Yeah.
But being trained in Western medicine, it's a very pathology-based, disease-focused system. And so it was, for us, it's always like, we don't take care of patients until they have a problem. And now, being in integrative medicine for over 12 years, obviously I see things differently. And you're like, when you have the problem, there's so much more work to do to get them back to balance. So I would assume that it would be the same with chiropractors that, once the patient comes in and they have sciatica or they have horrific headaches, nerve pain, getting them back to a normal state of balance is a lot harder.
Yeah.
Versus if they had just been doing kind of regular adjustments all along, they probably wouldn't have gotten to that place.
Absolutely right.
In the first place. Just like if someone had been eating healthy and exercising and taking their vitamins, et cetera, they probably wouldn't end up with some of the diseases we end up seeing.
Yeah.
How often do people have to go? Like, let's say I come in and I'm like, I actually feel great. I'm just doing a maintenance protocol. How often would you have me come in?
So everyone's different. Depends on complicating factors, pre-existing conditions, that type of stuff.
Age, probably.
Age, yeah. I see people on a wellness maintenance type of thing, anywhere from once a week to once a month to a month and a half. A lot of stuff happens in that span of time. If we wait until pain's the last thing to show up.
Right.
First thing to go away. So if we wait till pain pops up.
I'm grinning because I have not. If my pain is gone, he's like, I know when your pain's gone, you're not coming back. And it's only been 2 weeks.
Yeah. So once the pain pops up, we got to do a little bit more work to get that function back.
Right.
But maintaining it, like I said, week to month and a half.
I think when I came in, I was the hot mess. It was twice a week for, I don't know how many weeks I did it, but I was like, I'm going because it was bad enough that I'm like, I do not want to get back there. But now I think I go I try to go every week, but sometimes it's every 2 weeks. Right now it's going to be every 3 weeks. But I've been great since summertime. Yeah. I'm very happy.
It's similar to working out, losing weight. Once you lose all the weight, it's a lot easier to maintain that.
It is. And I find that it translates out into other areas of life. Like if I'm lifting or if I'm running or even just moving around the house, doing projects, you just feel more mobile.
Yeah.
Which is obviously very important. That's another thing in my life that I didn't think about mobility until I hit my, later 40s, because I was always just like cardio, and then I added strength in, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I need to be able to actually like move and
Yeah.
not fall over, and actually like put something up high, and stand on one foot and all that kind of stuff. And mobility has become one of my more recent passions, and I would say my adjustments have helped with that quite a bit.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I just had a patient that came in this past week and he is 60 and he made the joke. He's like, I turned 60 and all of a sudden the check engine light came on.
Right.
He's like, all of these things started happening.
Right.
It's like, well, we can still help, but would have been easier if we would just take care of it.
Exactly. Right. So would you say that chiropractic care could offset the onset of arthritis? So let's say I'm a runner. I've never had my knees checked out, but I can imagine that my meniscus is, maybe a little worn down. Would regular adjustments help prevent that, like the formation of osteoarthritis?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a natural progression of aging. That's just a
Right.
given.
Which I am
go.
very much trying to slow down.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do that by optimizing all those other things, by
Right.
having the proper nutrition, the fuel to make sure the tissues are getting the things that they need,
Right.
but then also making sure we have proper function. Simple analogy, I use it hundreds of times a week, is if we have 4 tires on our car and one's crooked, if we just keep driving, it's going to wear out quicker, right?
Right. For sure.
Our joints are the same way.
I want to talk a little bit more about the nervous system. So, for the people listening, the nervous system basically is your brain, your nerves, and all those signals that go out to the rest of your body so it does what it's supposed to do. We already touched on that a little bit. And then there's a portion of the nervous system called the autonomic nervous system, which we don't have to think about. It just runs on its own, but it's very important for running everything in your body the way it's supposed to run. So, it helps your hormones do what they're supposed to do. It helps your heartbeat. It helps you breathe. It helps you digest without having to think about it. So it's very different from this other part of the nervous system called the somatic nervous system, which is we think and then we do something. So you think, I'm going to move my foot, or I'm going to kick him, and you kick the person.
Yep.
But this is a system that runs on its own. And I definitely didn't think about going to a chiropractor as being an experience where they would work on my autonomic nervous system, because I've been very passionate about the autonomic nervous system, because a lot of people are in constant fight or flight. I'm in fight or flight a lot when you see me. Because sometimes it's in the middle of a patient day. I'm always running it hot. He's always just like, all right, we're going to deal with this. But I see a lot of patients struggle with issues because of that, whether it's anxiety or panic attacks or depression or chronic fatigue. There's so many things that can happen as a result of dysfunction in the autonomic nervous system. And I didn't realize how powerful chiropractic care could be for that. So tell me how your method of healing works on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. How it kind of works sometimes is, you ever notice when someone's in really a lot of pain that they may get irritable? They may get angry.
Yes. I'm thinking of a woman in labor right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that's like the extreme.
The interesting part is, and I won't get too science-based or too nerdy about it, but
right. You can.
That's actually certain parts in our brain. So if we get picked by a pain here, the only reason we feel that is because it's carried through our nerves. It comes from here, goes into the spinal cord, goes up certain tracks, and hits different parts of your brain, whether usually the first stop is your thalamus.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it'll go to whatever area. So if we consciously, hey, I got picked, I know that it hurts. Well, it went from the thalamus up to our cortex, so that we know that.
Right.
But also, when it goes up to the thalamus, it has a different branch. It can go to other areas of the brain, whether it's your amygdala,
right.
which is aggression. So if someone's in pain all the time, it's going to their cortex, but it's also going to there. And that's why people who are in chronic pain all the time are usually pretty angry
right.
or ornery, because it's hitting those areas.
Okay, I did not know that.
That same stopping point is also where it'll go to the other centers, whether that's the hypothalamus or areas that control hormone production.
Right, cortisol,
stress. And then once that kicks in, it has a whole flood of other things that happen throughout the body, affects breathing rate, your perspiration, so many different things.
Right, that makes sense.
Circulation, blood pressure, all that type of stuff.
So when you're adjusting someone, how does that help improve autonomic function?
Yeah. So when we make an adjustment, think of it as, instead of, I have 2 little kids, so I play with Legos. Instead of taking a Lego that's out of place and snapping it and it's in there permanently, It's not that, because we're dynamic people.
Right.
We're moving. All these things are happening all the time.
Right.
So think of it as a pendulum. If I make an adjustment, things swing and then they kind of work themselves back in. Sometimes, depending on how long it's been out of place or chronic factors, things like that, we have to make sure we keep doing that to get that normal function and motion in there. Or instead of the top surface of the water being super choppy, when we start to adjust, it starts to calm that nervous system. And that nervous system controls every single cell and tissue. So that relaxation ripple effects through the rest of the body to the digestive system,
Right.
to your heart, to your lungs.
Your breathing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like someone who's really sympathetic and we make an adjustment, like I said, it kind of balances the sympathetic with the parasympathetic. Imagine someone who's stressed out all the time. What do they look like? Shoulders are up. They
Crouch.
probably have high blood pressure.
Right. Right.
Their heart rate's probably up.
Yep.
Shallow breathing. So if we get all of that balanced out, it just calms that stuff down.
Right. And that's where I think I was, and I'm sure I thought this the first time I saw you, but this last time, my mentality going in was he's just going to fix the thing that's off, because I felt like my SI joint was off, or there was something at like L5 that was just off. I'm like, he's just going to adjust it and it's going to go back into place. And I'd already been trying all these stretches and strengthening things to get it to do it on its own, until I finally threw up the red flag and was like, I need help. But you were more like, you just did more through the autonomics. And I think I was like, oh yeah, I am kind of under a lot of stress, which is fine, but it's affecting my body. It's affecting the flow of things through my body. Yeah. And there's only so much breath work and cold plunging and vitamins and exercise I could do, and all the good healthy lifestyle things. Like sometimes I find that for myself, getting the adjustments is just, it's like icing on the cake. It's like a little assistance so I can keep living this busy life that I love, but then also feeling pretty relaxed and taking deep breaths and digesting my food well and all those other things that happen because of the autonomic nervous system.
Being able to focus on all those things,
right,
and even perform better.
Exactly.
The nice part too is all those cold plunges, meditation, all that type of stuff you were talking about. When the nervous system is working well, those things work.
They work even better, right?
Our vitamins are able to absorb better in our system. We can digest them better,
right?
All that type of stuff,
right? And I think people probably think that's a reach, but it makes so much sense. I mean, if your autonomic nervous system is working in balance, your organs work the way they're supposed to work, and they do the things they're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's physiology.
Yeah. So every single organ. So I think I look at chiropractic treatments. Obviously, I refer patients if they're in pain. That's like critical that they go. But even for high performers, high functioning, high stress lives, people who just want to optimize. I see a lot of people who just want to optimize. Like they feel pretty good, but they're like, just check me over, make sure I'm doing everything. I want to live a long and healthy life. Yeah. Those are the perfect patients to just do like regular little tune-ups.
Those are the people we were referring to in the beginning of this conversation. Like, we'd have just noticed it a little earlier.
Right.
It's a lot easier path,
right,
to keep up with it.
I want to talk a little bit about, I think there's different styles of chiropractic treatments. So one thing I like about your style is you're not doing any of these like huge, you just don't go in and get like massively cracked all over your body.
Yeah, very
and
good.
I'm not saying that's bad, but I see a lot of patients who have fear about that because whether they've had an adjustment and then they got worse after it, or they just feel really vulnerable if someone's holding their neck and doing this huge crack. That can be very intimidating for patients. So I like with your practice that it's very gentle. I tell my patients, you might not even feel like he's doing anything. It's just like he's lightly pressing your spine, but it's working. So I like how you do that. And then I also wanted to touch on, I have an experience I want to share. So when I first moved back to Green Bay after completing my residency, and I was working as an ER doctor, I went to some social event and there was people advertising there, and there was a chiropractor with a billboard or a poster that said, do you have chronic ear infections, or does your child have chronic ear infections? Come see us and we can make them go away. And I was like, my God, this guy is such a quack. And like, I was so negative about it. And I wanted to share that because when you're trained in Western medicine, not as much anymore, because now we have chiropractors working in hospitals and there's definitely more of a cohesiveness. But when I was trained, we were basically told that chiropractors were quacks. And I didn't know this until recently, that this was because of, in the 1960s, the American Medical Association actually, on this campaign to basically try to snuff out chiropractors. It ended up in the 70s that there was a lawsuit that the chiropractors won that proved that there was no scientific basis for what the AMA was doing. And then since then, the AMA has obviously come a long ways, because that was a long time ago. But what I have seen in medicine is that some of that negative quackery perception of chiropractors has kind of remained in some of the trained physicians. I'll have patients who I think I referred to this earlier, whose primary care doctor will be like, no, that won't work at all. That's total quackery.
Yeah.
And so I think I just wanted to make it aware to our audience that you will hear that. You might hear it from your primary care doctor. You might hear it from a specialist. It has largely been debunked, very highly scientifically studied. So, it's the real deal, obviously. And I know that the culture is shifting a lot, but there's, I think, still a long way to go.
Yeah.
A long way to go. Like, we still don't play in the same sandbox.
No, it's
at
getting
all.
better.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Yeah. People fear what they don't understand.
Right.
So, and this is an amazing platform and open mind to be able to have a conversation.
Yes.
I think that's why podcasts are such a nice thing.
They
It's
are.
not snippets.
Right.
It's a conversation. We can understand. So we get to understand and go, oh, that's what it is. That's what we're talking about. But yeah, like you said, I still to this day get medical doctors that are referring people in. I get people that are like, nope, my guy told me not to come here.
Right.
And that's okay.
It is okay.
But we have those conversations and we kind of figure that out.
Right. It's hard for the patient though, because I have a lot of patients who it's definitely changing, but they'll tell me, like, my doctor tells me that you're just making expensive pee when you put me on these vitamins. Or my doctor, like, when I first started, there was a lot of negative backlash. A lot, especially from the specialists, very specific specialists. They would say, like, I had patients that literally would like stand up during their appointment with the specialist and like leave the appointment and be like, I'm never coming back to you, because they wanted to stand up for that. They believed that what they were doing with integrative medicine was right. That has shifted a lot too. But as a patient, it can provoke tears. I've had patients like bawl their eyes out after leaving a specialist's office.
Yeah.
When they're like, I really feel good about what I'm doing in integrative medicine, but here I have this very highly trained specialist who's really bashing it. So it can be really intimidating. So I just wanted to shine the light on that. This is not quackery. This is very scientifically studied, very well accepted, even by the American Medical Association. But you might have some old codgers out there who are still down in it a little bit.
I mean, we grow up with our perceptions of what we do in life and all that type of stuff. And we were talking before this that when that was all happening back in these 50s, the exact dates I'm not sure, but 40s, 50s, like chiropractors were being put in jail.
I did not know that. That's insane.
For practicing medicine without a license.
Right.
That's what the reason they said it.
Right.
They got out, they kept helping people because they knew that just what they were doing was right and it was helping a lot of people. And thankfully that shifted. But to this day, like you said, seeing people at events that are saying we can adjust little kids, helping with these types of things, going back to that subluxation. So if we have improper nerve flow, that's not being able to fully send those messages from the brain. Doesn't matter if it's your toe, ear, your immune system, your pancreas, your low back, like nerves are nerves.
Right.
We're just making those work so that everything else functions.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine you bring in a kid who has chronic constipation or chronic reflux, and you can do wonders. I can imagine. And
usually there's a full diaper by the time we're done.
Right. I know. This is, in Western medicine, we're just pounding them with like acid blockers and stool softeners and prune juice or Miralax. Yeah. That's the common thing. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I think this is so cool. So at Dr. Matzke's office, you can't make an appointment between what hours of the day is it?
Yeah. So 12:30 and 3.
Right.
We're gone for in between then.
So they're there in the morning. They're there in the late afternoon, early evening, and then you can't go on Fridays, and you definitely can't go on Saturdays and Sundays. I wanted to bring that up because we follow a similar practice style at Wagner Integrative Health. So we're not here on Fridays. We have a shorter day on Wednesdays, and a lot of patients they'll just say to me like, what do you do? And I only see patients 2 days a week. And they'll say, what are you doing on those other days? And we both kind of laughed about this earlier because we both own a business. So obviously we're busy on those other days. Yeah. But what I notice about it is you go into his office and the staff is always smiling, very smiley. And he's always relaxed because he's probably exercising or going home and visiting his kids and having lunch with his family. Yeah. So he just demonstrates a very balanced lifestyle. Have you done that the whole time, like your whole practice?
It's been a work in progress.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. When starting out building a business, building a practice.
You just were available more.
Yeah, available more, but then also in between those times was going out and meeting people, networking, that type of stuff. Whereas now I can scale a little bit back on that. But those times, are mainly for, especially during the week, before, in the middle, And then at nighttime, you can ask my wife too, Sunday through Thursday, it's very specific for the reason of being refreshed.
Right.
No one wants a tired, heavy doctor of any kind,
No, no,
whether integrative,
no,
chiropractor,
right,
surgeon, making sure that we're well rested, so we're mentally alert, physically capable to take care of the people.
right. No, and I think it shows. Like, and I think I'm a big believer in, energy and vibration. And if someone is trying to manually heal you with hands and their body is just in a low vibe state or out of balance, like it's not going to be as effective.
Yeah.
We just know that. That's obvious. So I think that's really, really cool how you have your practice. Side note, if there's any like cardiologist, heart surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, I'm sorry. Because I know they don't have the luxury of making a nice balanced life like we have. So all of the kudos to those practitioners who just like have to work that hard and that many hours and be on call because that is the style of their medicine. Like I have huge respect for them. Huge.
Yeah, that very good point because it's based on how we do things
Right.
and the type of practice we have and the
Right.
medicine we are that we're able to do that, thankfully. I'm sure they have their ways that they do that
Right.
the best they can.
Yes.
And yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's tough. I have clients who are in those specialties and it's just trying to like work around like how do we actually keep you in balance when all this stuff is going on.
Yeah.
But I should just tell them to come see you. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know if I missed anything that I wanted to ask you about. I don't think so. Was there anything else you wanted to share with the audience, my audience?
Well, not really, but we kind of touched on a little bit. You were speaking about it before about the different adjusting styles, let's say.
Yes.
Like you said, so we talked about chiropractic, subluxation, which is what we treat, and then the adjustment.
Right.
There's so many different styles of adjusting, especially now with the Instagram, TikTok, YouTube type stuff.
Right.
Where chiropractors are getting on there posting how many loud pops and cracks
Oh.
you get and that type of stuff.
Right.
And, one, what that is, it's gas being released from the joints.
Right.
It does happen. The pop is not the aim of any adjustment.
No.
Whether if that's a more forceful style or a more gentle style, the goal is just to get proper function motion within those segments.
Yep.
If they're really, really stuck, I always start with very gentle. Like I said, sometimes we feel the pop, sometimes we don't. No big deal. Our goal is to get proper function and motion into the spine.
So you don't need to have that big.
Yeah. And we're not searching for it.
No, and I don't know why we all think that's going to make us better.
Yeah.
But it never makes me feel better when I get a huge pop.
Yeah. Now, there is a physiological, kind of like an aspirin type of effect to it. Very quick, sends up that pain signal up certain nerves, and brain goes in and kind of cancels that pain signal, which is why we go back and say, I know you're feeling better, but we're focusing on the function of things.
Right.
Because, again, pain goes away. If we're healthy and then function starts to decrease, the pain doesn't show up until here. And then we're like, oh, well, I'm going to just keep pushing. Well, then we're way down here. So
Right.
go back up to feel better. And then if we stop, we
Right.
keep going down.
Yes.
So it's just kind of that up and down.
And my first time I saw you, I went from here to here and then I stopped.
Yeah.
And now this time I'm here and now I'm kind of dancing up into here.
Yeah.
That's what I see it as.
And I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably deal with the same type of education, type of hurdles, I guess, with patients that I'm feeling good, done. And then all of a sudden you see them 3 years later and they're kind of back to the same area.
Yeah. And I actually made a mistake in my practice when I first started. I would let people go too long without not come back. So I'm like, oh, you're doing great. Let's just see you in a year. And then they came back a year later, hot mess. And it was because we didn't have those touch points, And I've also just noticed with patients that my focus is less on like what's actually really wrong with you now, but like how are we optimizing everything? Obviously, there are some patients I have to take care of the acute issue because that's like the thing that's screaming at me. But
number one.
Yeah. But otherwise, you're looking at the whole function of the human, the whole system, all their systems, how they're working together, their overall balance. And I look at things as more of a gentle nudge now versus a let's get it fixed right away. Patients want to get fixed right away. So I always try to give them a little nugget that's going to fix them right away a little bit. Yep. But then I really try to educate them that, hey, this is like you're 45 years old. It took you 45 years to get to where you are today. We're not going to fix it with one pill or 1 week of treatment or one set of labs. Like we have to massage this a little bit.
Yeah. And that's just kind of the impression that's given in society today about a lot of that stuff. Through no fault of their own, that's just kind of what we've been programmed to think.
Right.
Thank goodness we have those types of things in place for those emergency type
Yes, for
situations.
sure.
But if we're talking about long-term chronic type problems, there's no quick fix to any of them.
No.
So it's going to be making a decision to go, okay, it's time to start taking care of things, and then finding the right people to help you do that.
Right. And then sticking with it once you feel good.
Yeah. Yep. Like we got there.
Right.
Let's keep doing.
Let's keep things going the way they are, because otherwise it's going to backpedal.
And thank goodness we don't have to do as much work as we did to keep it there.
Right.
Yeah, we still got to do some stuff.
Right. I would say about the popping thing though, because I don't know why, it just feels so good. So when I went, I think the first couple times there was nothing, and then once things started to move, then I would get little subtle clicks and pops when you were adjusting me. And it was interesting because my daughter recently saw him, and the first time she went, I was like, "Did you get any pops?" And she's like, "No." And she was kind of like, "Oh, I didn't get any pops." But I'm like, "Nope, you're not supposed to yet. You're probably pretty rigid and tight, so you're gonna need a couple treatments, and then it'll start moving." And then I think by the third time she was like, "Yep, I got some pops."
I mean, if you can imagine, if a spine's never been looked at,
Right.
and let's say I'm almost 40 years old, let's say a 40-year-old person that's never been to the chiropractor and then decides to go, that's 40 years of built up of improper motion
Right.
into the spine. I mean, taking out a sledgehammer and starting to really we're going to cause some other grief.
Right.
So it's a process. You got to start peeling the layers of the onion.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So it's a very, very fun and cool experience. So anything else?
Not on the top of my mind.
Okay, I covered everything I wanted to talk about, but mostly I just wanted to get your face in front of everyone, talk about what you do, educate them a little bit about that and the different variations of it, and remind them that it is not quackery. You probably hate that word. I actually hate that word too, because I've been referred to as a quack, but that's why I kind of like to use it. I love it.
Those things.
I like being referred to as quack. But other than that, I so appreciate you coming here. I hope you have a wonderful weekend with your family, because I know you're on your weekend now.
Yeah,
so you don't have to go back to the office. And I will see you next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm in town now. And I appreciate all that you do for me and my family and the community, and keep doing your great work.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.